Welcome to the Cameron Show. I'm your friend, Cameron Tyler, coming to you live from Dude IDK Studios in Denver. I'm so happy you're here, and I could not be more happy than I am now to be inviting my dear, dear friend, Maitri Jensen, onto the podcast. Hi, Maitri.
Hi, Cameron.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
It was so short notice, but there was like an opening for us shooting, and I was like, hey, I know this is 24 hours from now, but will you come be on my show? Because I really wanted to have you on since last season, and we couldn't make it happen, but now you're here.
I'm very excited.
Since our friends at home might not know who you are, I'm going to start with the two basic questions.
Yes.
You know what they are because you're an avid listener.
I do.
The first one I'm going to ask is, if you were to introduce yourself to someone new in 10 words or less, how would you do that?
Yes. My name's Maitri Jensen, and I always find this the hardest. I do this when I'm at home. I think I'm going to have a good answer, and clearly I don't.
You're never going to be able to do less than 10 words. By the way, I could have told you this. If she can do 100 words, it will be a miracle.
It'll be great. I am passionate. I am talkative. I'm sincere and fun to be around.
There you go. And just like that. Those were the official words. Those were the official words. You are all of those things, which is why I wanted to have you. And, you know, this is a connection and storytelling podcast. You're one of the easiest to connect to people that I know, probably because we've also known each other for a long time, which we'll get into. And also, you have quite the story to tell. I tell people my life has been a roller coaster. Yours, I don't even know what I would call yours is a rocket ship. If mine is a roller coaster, which I think is amazing. The second question before we get going, to set the tone, you're closing your eyes and you're envisioning your aura. What color would you assign to that?
I'm going to stick with my usual answer, which you don't know because I've not been on your show before, but it's like very like rainbow, multicolored.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Is that because I'm gay?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
I wanted to point that out for the whole world to know in case they didn't.
You are?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just because, like, kind of like with my introduction, right? Is like I'm a lot of things that people don't expect, and so I think that color diversity really fits. Like sometimes I'm dark, some days I'm bright.
And that's perfect.
Yeah.
Every color of the rainbow you are.
Thanks.
So our origin story is unique. We come from the same elementary school, but just 2 years, 5th and 6th grade. Mm-hmm. We both went to Red Rocks Elementary. Shout out. We were not immediate friends.
No.
Because I was miserable and not nice to anybody.
We had a lot going on in our personal lives.
Yes.
And especially at that young age, it's hard to process for ourselves, let alone put ourselves in other people's shoes.
Yeah. The empathy was not empathying. And the interesting thing is, we were both going through a hard time, but we didn't know that about each other because we weren't friends. Anyone who's read the book will know this. Like, that was the time where my mom was like leaving my dad and getting back together with my dad and leaving him again. And we would get picked up from school and she'd be like, we live in a new house. And we'd be like, okay. And it was crazy. And so, like you said, it was hard enough for me, just speaking from my perspective, to even keep up with what was going on in my life. I certainly wasn't paying any attention to what was going on in your life. So, and I told you this before, you can talk as much or as little about this as you want, but while I was going through that roller coaster, what was your roller coaster?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back like a little bit farther.
Yeah.
Because of context, but I was an international adoptee. So I was born in India. I came over to the States when I was 3. And I had twice failed adoption. Go me. So the first family, I got really sick when I came over. And so they had a lot of concerns for their bio kiddo and didn't want to risk that. And so then I got adopted when I was 3.5. And so in that family, like we did have good times, but we had a lot of rough times. And so I was dealing with like a lot of abuse and neglect, um, and struggling. I thought I did a really good job of hiding out. Turns out it was like the best kept secret that everybody knew. So that's what I was struggling with, because I was just trying so hard to present as like a normal young person. But there is a lot of things problematic that was happening that I didn't have good explanations for, or I didn't know how to talk about, which could be like really annoying for people who didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly had no idea, and everyone pissed me off in that era of my life, so I wasn't nice to anybody. But I would have never paid attention. I honestly, all through 5th grade, I had no idea what was going on, and then through most of 6th grade. But as we were discussing earlier, there was a shift in 6th grade because our 6th grade teacher had us study a unit about Greek mythology. And at the end of this unit, we were to put on like a play.
Yes.
And we each had to pick a Greek god or goddess and dress up as them. I don't even know if I'm saying this right, but Dionysus.
Oh,
Dionysus.
I don't even remember who I was.
That's what I was gonna ask, if you remembered who you were supposed to be. And I say supposed to be because
that's so funny. I'm really impressed that you remember that. So listeners and watchers, if you know anything about the Greeks, they typically wear white or light colored things.
Togas.
Togas, yes. Yeah. Togas, dresses. And so that was like our instruction, is when you come to this play, like wear white, wear nice things, like present, like it's gonna be like professional, if you will. And I was like, okay, great. And so I went home, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know if I asked my mom at the time, my adoptive mom, for white pants. I went home, I had a white shirt, and I realized I didn't have anything white for pants. I didn't have a skirt, dress, anything. And so in my like 10-year-old brain, I was like, okay, I can't ask this person for this thing, because either the answer is going to be no, or asking the question is going to put me in an unsafe situation. So I was like, I just need to dress as nicely as I can. And so I came to school in a white t-shirt and the darkest, nicest jeans I owned, but that was not the assignment.
Yeah. I remember you came to school and you were the only one who wasn't dressed up. And I remember that our 6th grade teacher, who was an otherwise marvelous man who sometimes had some bad moments, this was one of his not better moments, got really upset with you, and he did it in front of all of us. And I think maybe that's part of why this whole experience stands out in my mind, because I remember him saying, all you had to bring was a bed sheet. It didn't even have to be a costume, but like, I told you to bring a bed sheet, and you were just like, oh, sorry, I forgot.
That was my like go-to. I think we were talking about this, is I would either, because I didn't know how to explain what was going on. I didn't know how to tell people I was unsafe. And so I would either be like, oh, I forgot, or I just wouldn't say anything, which would really piss adults off, because they thought that I was being difficult or having an attitude.
Which anyone who knows you would never be that rude. You literally couldn't stomach being that rude. But I remember that must have been for like a rehearsal the day before, because I remember I went home and I told my mom about it. And my mom came from a background where that, not because of the abuse, and I wouldn't even say neglect, but it's because she was the youngest of 12 kids, that she would often be overlooked, and like the same situation might happen to her. And I remember she called my dad, and we were like in the kitchen table, and she was like, this girl in Cameron's class needs a Greek goddess costume, so stop at Party America or whatever and get one on the way home. And I remember at the time, because I was a brat, I was like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't tell you this so that you could put your nose in it, like a typical 12-year-old. And then the next day they brought it. And I was so sour about it.
I remember, but I was like, that was like the nicest thing I'd ever gotten.
I know.
Was, like, amazed.
Right? Well,
I didn't even care that like you were upset, because I was just like, wow, like,
I know.
Is so nice I get to wear this beautiful outfit.
You were so thankful, and like, I obviously now look back and I'm like, well, I'm really glad my parents did that. But at the time, I was just like, I am so embarrassed because my parents are doing this. And I remember that night, my mom yelled at me. I must have really been being a brat. No, I deserved it. I deserved it. And she was like, do you understand what's going on? And I don't know if you had talked to her. I don't know.
It was like the worst kept secret. So
yeah,
probably
the parents
not.
probably did. There was a parent in our class, a parent of one of our classmates who was like one of your biggest advocates, and so
she was my teacher for a short time too.
Yeah, like
shout out Annie Ahern.
Shout out Annie Ahern.
Love you.
There were people who knew and adults who knew, and so when my mom got involved, I don't know how she found out, but then she was like, "This is what's going on," and I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
I would know that. I'm in 6th grade thinking I would know that because of course. And I really just had no idea, but you were not living a life like anyone else's in our class.
Yeah. I also think too, like if you think about demographics, like we lived in Red Rocks, which is like predominantly white neighborhood, predominantly wealthy neighborhood. So it's not like a typical, like atypical thing that people would hear about or talk about or know about, because you like have what you need.
Exactly. And to your point, like even if they knew about it, they wouldn't talk about it. Or when you say it was the worst kept secret. Yeah, the worst kept secret. It's like that is kind of the vibe of what it was like. And in time, we all knew what was happening, but nobody could do anything about it or would. There were a few people who would and couldn't.
Yeah. And I think there are people who tried, and some of it was myself, like getting in the way, not realizing it. Like hindsight, I think about things and like the grooming that I went through and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But some of it was just like, even myself, like it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized how many people knew. And I really like went through my childhood thinking that people thought I was just like this awful kid. And so I was like always trying to just make myself really small and unseen, which doesn't help in situations like that.
I mean, well, that's what I remember about you from those years, especially at Red Rocks before we went to middle school, is that you were always so, I guess the word is meek.
Yeah.
You were meek. You were timid. You were very hyper polite to the point where I was like, girl, calm down. But that was a response to the environment in which you lived, where you went home and you were villainized. And now I look back and I'm like, that is a girl who thought she was the villain, and she wasn't.
I did. Yeah, I thought that people like just thought I was a horrible kid. And I remember, I think you came when we graduated high school. The school had reached out to all of our class because at that time, most of us, I think almost all of that class, except for like 2 or 3 people, had gone through school, like pre-K through high school together. And so they did like a class reunion, and Annie had reached out to me and told me about it, and I was like, yeah, like I'll make it happen. And I wanted to, but I remember as 20 years old being like, well, actually I think it was 18 because it would have been high school.
Yeah.
Being like, oh man, like are people gonna be like, oh, this horrible kid's back? Like
that is
and
insane.
I asked. I remember talking because at that time the it's a different principal now, but at that time our principal was still there. And so I remember being like, I'm so sorry for like how I was. And they were like, what are you apologizing for?
Oh, I can imagine. And yeah. Okay. Well, wait, let's rewind a little bit because I want to talk about that reunion that we had senior year of our elementary school class.
Yeah.
But the reason why it was a reunion is because, so we go to 5th and 6th grade together. For most of that time, I'm a brat. I'm just like, that girl is annoyingly quiet and she seems, everyone seemed like they had a better life than me, so I hated everybody. And then, this shift happens at the Greek mythology play, and my mom has this like come to Jesus moment with me, and I'm like, oh, Oh my God. And then we became kind of friendly, and then we go to the same middle school.
Yeah.
We go to Carmody
One
for
semester.
7th grade. Yes, we start at the same middle school, I should say. And we're friends in middle school, and, and we've come there from elementary school together. We, I believe, had lunchtime together for that one semester you ended up being there. And we were friends, but we were not friends where you were telling me as many details as maybe some of our other friends. And so I knew what your situation was. I knew it hadn't changed. But, from my perspective at that time, as a 13-year-old or whatever, I'm just thinking like, yeah, Maitri's life at home sucks. And good thing she gets to come to school and hang out with me.
Yeah.
And like, that's all I was thinking. I did not know what kind of head the situation was coming to behind the scenes. And so I came back to school after winter break of 7th grade, and noticeably, this girl in my friend group is gone all of a sudden. And in our friend group, none of us immediately knew what happened. We were just like, where's Maitri? And the teachers couldn't tell us, and our parents were not in communications with your parents. And so we had no idea you had just disappeared. Yeah. So that's the way that it looks from my side in January of 2004. No, yeah.
Yes.
2004. Yeah. What does it look like on your side?
I think some of that is really similar. So what ended up happening, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more later, but when you look at abuse and neglect systematically, there's a couple different ways you can get involved in the system. There's one where it's through juvenile justice, where like maybe you get arrested for something or charges, and then through that, abuse and neglect is found and a child welfare case opens up. The other way is through just like a traditional child welfare case where like somebody maybe calls in and they have concerns about physical abuse or neglect or lots of different things. And so I remember that I was 13, and I remember I had a lot of I love school because it was an escape for me. It was a place that I did well overall when I didn't have people impeding on my success. And by people, I mean the people at my home. Unfortunately, if I did too well, they would get involved so that I wouldn't do well. So I had to find this weird good balance of things, which I never really did while I was living with them. But that being said, things just over winter break took a really sharp turn. I don't fully know what happened, but my adoptive mom and her husband were in a mood. They were convinced I had stolen this bracelet. And if I had, it would have been a felony charge. And so they were convinced I had stolen this bracelet. I wasn't allowed to, I had to sit in the landing of our home. I wasn't allowed to eat. I wasn't really allowed to sleep. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I had schoolwork to do over winter break. And so I was really worried about that. And my adoptive mom's husband would kind of come by throughout the day and tease isn't the right word, but kind of edge me, if you will. So he'd kick at my legs and be like, oh, are you having a good time? All you have to do is confess to doing this, all of this stuff.
He was antagonizing you.
And I held out for the most part until about a week before break ended. Because I was I really need to get this homework done. And there's something else that had happened. I was doing so well and too well. I was doing too well in school, and I had gone home and talked about it. And then I wasn't doing well because they didn't like that. And so I was I need to prove to my teachers that I'm still doing well. So I need to get this homework done. And so he essentially bargained with me, and he was if you confess, I'll leave you alone. You can go back to your room. You can eat. You can do whatever you want. And I was oh, so as long as I say I did this, you'll leave me alone. Everything will go back to normal. I can eat. I can do my homework. I can be alone. And he's yes, absolutely. I was great. I did it. No qualms, I confess, because that was my really focus was schoolwork. Also, this person is a very smart person. They have a legal background, so they knew what they were doing. They told me what to write in my confession letter and had me sign it. I had no idea like what their plans were for me. I was just like, sweet, I get to go do my homework now.
That's what I wonder. I'm like, why are you trying to coerce a 13-year-old into a crime?
Yeah, it was really interesting. And so finished out that week, got left alone, got to go back to school. And that teacher, Annie, she was still in contact with me. And so bless her, because the calls she got from me, I don't know how she did it, but she knew that things weren't great. And so she checked in with me. I think she came to the school like that first day back. She had me talk to the school resource officer with her about what had happened. So that was my life. I didn't think it was unnormal. So I was just like, yeah, this happened and like da-da-da-da. And they were like, oh, that's really problematic.
And by the way, this is another thing about you is that you've always been so like matter of fact about it that I remember that as a kid. I remember thinking like, what? And you were just almost not unfazed, but you told it as such like, yeah, I had to sit on my hands for X amount of hours and that's just the way it is at home. And I'm like, girly, that's not the way it's supposed to be at home.
That's not normal.
Yeah.
But it was my normal. Like it was like, it didn't even like cross my mind that there would be something else to experience because I'd been experiencing it for so long. And so it was a really interesting situation because when I came back and talked to school resource officer, this is going to sound really weird. Unfortunately, I didn't have any marks and bruises on me. I say that because I think it would have taken a different direction. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know, but behind the scenes, my adoptive mom and her husband already had things happening. And so in this meeting, I talked about like him kicking me. I didn't have marks and bruises. I talked about how I got like locked in my room at night and I didn't have a bathroom. I talked about how like our cabinets were locked up and so I didn't have access to food unless they wanted me to have access to it. I talked about all of these things, which if the behind the scenes stuff wasn't happening, they would have been founded when this police officer took me to my house. But what I didn't know is that same day that I went to school, my adoptive mom and her husband decided to file criminal charges against me because the bracelet was considered a felony amount. There's like a certain amounts that create different charges. So the amount that this bracelet was worth was considered a felony amount. And so they decided that they were going to charge me with theft, which they did. So the school resource officer pulls up to my house with me in it, and there's already a police officer at my house waiting for me.
The timing, you could not write this.
And the reason why that is so important is because they knew that they were going to be filing this report and these charges against me. They changed the locks on my room. They undid all of the locks because it wasn't like a key lock. It was like chains and like a padlock,
like a deadbolt, or
like
a
padlock. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So like it's super easy to undo and change when you know that there are going to be people in your home.
Oh, totally.
So this school resource officer walked through my home and came out and was like, "Why did you lie? None of that stuff that you told me is true.
Oh my
That's
god.
not what your house looks like." And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. I just can tell you I didn't lie." And I got arrested for this theft and taken away by that second police officer. Now, where the child welfare case comes in is this all happened. I lived in Red Rocks, which is part of Jefferson County, Colorado. And so Jefferson County has something called the Juvenile Assessment Center. It's a place that they'll take young people to get their fingerprints done, their court dates, and then it's the parents' responsibility to come and pick up their young people. My mom found out that I was still in touch with Annie Ahern, that's why the school resource officer took me to the house, and she found out that I was telling the truth to people. And so she, I guess understandably from her perspective, was very, very angry.
Oh,
and
I bet she was.
Refused to come and pick me up. And because of that, that is considered child abandonment. And that is what opened up my child welfare case. And since I had nowhere to go, I entered into the foster care system.
And just like that.
Yep.
So
I did not return to school the next day.
She did not return to school. So the crazy thing is, all of that must have happened on the first day back.
Yeah.
Because you were not there.
Yeah.
That must have been like
it was
when
like
we went to lunch.
I came that first day, and I remember too that the teachers were watching me leave because they were afraid that I would get scared and get on the bus instead of go. So like I had teachers' eyes on me when I was like, oh, I need to go get these things. And they were like, oh, like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to my locker. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here.
It's just, yeah. We eventually found out that you had entered into the system. We had no idea what had gone down. I think at the time we were confused. I remember being very disturbed by it. And I remember telling my mom. And I remember my mom's reaction was like, well, hopefully they took her because her life was not okay, Cameron. Like, if they took her, that's a good thing. I remember her saying that. And then I remember, because you were still in touch with Annie Ahern, that, and we had gone to elementary school with her daughter. We were not still in school with her daughter anymore because she went to a different middle school. But she must have been in contact with someone else because eventually I got to go visit you. And where were you?
I was in what's considered a residential treatment center down in Denver. Down here.
Yeah. I was going to say, we definitely knew where you were eventually. And it
took a while because the place that I was at, they have like certain rules. So we had to get like releases signed so they could even confirm that I was there. And then like I had to get approvals through like my team to be allowed to like call, make sure it's like safe and things like that. And so I know we had a couple phone calls first.
Yes.
And then I think
that might have been all we had in 7th grade because I almost feel like I didn't see you till 8th grade.
Might be.
I mean, I feel like a lot of time passed before we were able to go visit you. And then the visits were really short. It was like, you can hang out in this room for like 45 minutes.
I don't think that would have been in 8th grade. I think it still would have been in 7th grade because I wasn't like at that place for, well, I guess I was over there for a little bit longer than 6 months.
Well, it seemed like forever. Maybe it was that summer because I just remember thinking like, oh my God, I thought I was never going to see this girl again.
Yeah.
And then I saw you there. But then after you left there, I think that's when we fell out of contact again. So then where did you go?
So then I went to a foster home. So I actually went to technically 3 different foster homes. So in my child welfare time frame, I've experienced 4 different placements. So I was initially placed in that residential treatment center. Then I went to a foster home in, it was like in the Ken Carl district because that was the school I went to, was Ken Carl Middle School. And then I went to Thornton. And that's kind of, I had 2 different foster homes in Thornton that I lived in.
And so we both finished high school separately. We go to college separately. And then, oh no, but before we go to college, we have the reunion. So the next time I saw you after we were like 13 was like 5 years later when we were graduating from high school. And I can't believe that you were nervous that we would have a bad impression of you. I feel like everyone was like, I wonder if Maitri is going to be there.
Yeah, but like from my perspective, right? Like I was like this weird kid. Like sometimes I'm pretty sure at that time I was still like sometimes showing up in like the same clothes from the day before. Like, yeah, I was just like, I'm like difficult. Like I remember, like, not that I actually was, but that was like my perception of myself is that like people view me as difficult. So I was like, I have no idea like how you guys perceive me.
Oh my gosh, we could not have been happier to see you there. And
like,
that,
she's alive.
We're like, oh my God, you did live. Thank God. I mean, it was truly like, because it was just like you got wiped off the planet. And then,
well, I also think it was scary. We kind of talked about this. It was scary for some people because of the things I was saying.
Oh, yes.
So like one of our mutually good friends, and at the time my best friend, I was confiding in her probably the most. And I remember telling her, like, I'm afraid for my life. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And, like, young me didn't realize the impact those words were having. I was just like, I have somebody I can confide this into. I have somebody who cares about me.
Yeah.
But like older me like looks back and like the trauma that statement alone has to hear from somebody that you love and care about, and then to show up at school and not have that person who just said they were fearful for their life be there.
I know.
And then not know for how many ever months it took. Like, that's huge.
That is a huge, and I'm sure I can't imagine what was running through her mind. Because also you lived in her neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Well,
like you lived near.
I laugh
near her.
because like everybody who lived in the Red Rocks area, like really like a 10-mile vicinity of me knew me because I was always walking around trying to find things to do to not be in my house, either because like my family was like, go away, we don't want you here, or because I just didn't want to be there. And so I would walk the streets of Red Rocks.
Yeah, of Willow Springs
yes.
and Willow Brook. And I remember
knocking on doors being like, you want to hang out?
Yeah, exactly. Or I remember, tell me what I have wrong here if I do, but yeah. I remember you collecting like golf balls.
Oh, yeah. I sold golf balls. So my house was off of a golf course, and the expectation of my family was that I make money to provide for myself. And so it's probably illegal.
In 5th grade, by the way.
I'm like,
unhinged.
Like, don't arrest me, but been there, done that.
Yeah.
So we lived off of this golf course. So I would go into the ravines of the golf course and I would find golf balls and I would clean them and then I would sell them. And that's how I made money.
To support yourself as an elementary school child. I mean,
like, do you remember in 6th grade, you guys all got to go? Don't worry, I got to go later. But in 6th grade, we had the outdoor ed trip.
Oh, outdoor lab, yeah.
And I was the only student in our class that didn't get to go because I didn't make enough money to go.
I remember.
My mom wouldn't allow parents to pay for me.
Yeah, because I remember there were volunteers.
Yeah. That was because I didn't make enough money. And like, I remember I was like, this is hopeless. I'm not going to be able to make enough money. And so I wasn't going out as much, which was really angering my adoptive mom. And I was just like, you have given me a goal that I can't reach. So why even bother?
Ugh. The whole thing still makes me angry. We could talk for probably 3 hours about it.
I was a wonderful salesperson, though. Can I tell you?
I was can imagine. I would
you buy a dozen, you get 2 free.
The fact that you even had to do it, though, I look back and I'm in disbelief at how much everyone knew and no one could do.
I think one of the things that I look back on, like you kind of talked about, like that moment in 6th grade where you're like, this is like a red flag and this person isn't getting this. And for me, like when I look back, I think like my biggest red flag is, do you remember we did like a music section in 6th grade?
Are you talking about where we like analyzed song lyrics?
Song lyrics.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was, but somebody played the song Concrete Angel by
Megan.
Martina McBride.
I always remember that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my favorite song.
And that song is famously about child abuse that led to the death of the child.
And I remember that our teacher asking, like, why would you say that? I'm like, oh, because I can really relate to the song. Like, and I didn't understand what I was confessing to. I just knew. I was like, I know what this feels like. And I love this song. And
God, you're gonna make me cry, Maitri.
Huge red flag. Like what 10, 11-year-old is like, this is my anthem.
Well, that's the point. I'm like, oh my God, I was probably singing some Britney Spears song. And you're doing Concrete Angel. Like, it's craziness. So to get back on track, because we're going to get all the way to present day.
We are.
We saw each other there. Then we became connected on social media.
Yeah.
Well, thank God, because then we kind of were in the periphery of each other from then on. We didn't lose each other after that. But then, do you remember why we started hanging out in the more recent years?
Because
like
I reached
4
out
years
to
ago. Yes. Because
selfishly, but I was like, we don't know unless I ask. So Cameron had released his first book, and it was amazing. Cameron with a K. No, you're Lucas with a K. You're Cameron with a K. Oh my God,
you can't believe how many people do that. It's
Lucas
right
with a K, right there.
Yep.
Go buy it, read it. It's amazing.
Listen to it.
Listen to it. All of the things. And so, like, when you released it, I bought it right away. I like, binge read it in one night. I was like, this is amazing. And for a while, I'd been toying with the idea of myself, like, writing something and releasing something. And you self-published that. And so I remember that as I, like, started getting more serious about the thought of wanting to do something. And I was like, well, he and I haven't talked in a couple years. But he has this experience. And finally, I was just like, Maitri, you never know unless you ask. Like, the worst he's going to say is like, no, I don't want to. And I'll be like, okay, great. Thanks for your time. But yeah, I reached out to you on Facebook and I was just like, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking. And like, I'd love to pick your brain if you have time for that and have capacity and would be okay with it. And you were like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. Let's get together.
Yeah. Well, and as you know, like, the reason I started this podcast, and this is why I love this story, is because I always want to promote the idea of don't just watch people through their social media. Like, if you want to be connected to someone, start a connection with them. And so I've very many times been the person saying, I know this is so random, but like, do you want to hang out with me? Or do you want to get coffee? Do you want to talk? Do you want to go to dinner? And this was one of the few times someone did it to me. And I was just like, oh my God, yes. And so now we've hung out at a lot of different places, but we have most often gone to the Cheesecake Factory on 16th Street.
Delicious.
That's where we most frequently dine to this day. But you're working on writing now, which I love. And I mean, we have to be careful about even approaching the subject because it's her favorite thing. She writes 911 fan fiction and has an insane amount of followers.
Oh, thanks.
She has her own following. That might be a secret identity, or is it not?
I write under a pseudonym because of my job.
We'll
but
never tell.
Like, everybody is so supportive and so kind on that platform. I did a lot of research before I chose the platform, and I picked well. That platform has been really great. It's Archive of Our Own if you're interested, and they have thousands upon thousands of fan fiction for any genre you can think of.
Is it true you have to apply to be a writer on that website? I've heard that you have to apply.
I did. It wasn't like a long application, but you like put it in of like, yes, I'm interested, and then like agree to their terms, and then they look it over and will allow you to create a profile.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we never know. I mean, you have a lot of different things that you work on.
I do. I like art and I dabble. So there's certain things, and I'll do it for like different periods of time. But writing, I've always been really passionate about writing. And I actually kind of forgot this about myself because of like my life experiences. There's some memories I just don't have. But I think I had reached out to you because recently I got like shipped this box of memories of some of my life stuff, and in it were like short stories and poems and writings that I didn't finish. They were like cracking me up, and I was like, I forgot that I've always loved to write.
Yes.
So that's something that I've never lost, but I just kind of want to do a little bit more with it now.
And you've always been a fangirl, I'm realizing, of police dramas, because one of the other main things I do remember about Maitri, which regrettably at the time I probably made fun of you for.
Everybody did.
Everyone did.
It's okay.
But she had an obsession with Walker, Texas Ranger.
Y'all. Yes. And I laughed because I think I told you this. One of the stories I found literally like the third chapter in was like, Marcy, don't you think Walker, Texas Ranger is the best show you've ever watched?
Yes. I mean, the obsession was real.
Yeah. You know, it was kind of twofold. It's different for me now as an adult, but for me then, that show, it's still great. Obviously, it has its flaws. It's very black and white, but that's what drew me to it, was to see characters that knew, like, this is right and this is wrong. And, like, these characters will stand up for anybody, children, adults, if something is going wrong. And that was something I really, really needed in my life. And so I just kind of, like, that was my pseudo family or my process to
I
get
love
through
that.
that.
That was your safe space.
Yeah.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yes.
Do you think that has fed into your current life? Because currently you are working in the field of social work, and
Yeah.
what I really admire about you is that I think anyone who has gone through what you have gone through in your life would have every reason to act out in a really negative way and be just naughty and bad, but you never did. And you took a lot of things that happened to you that could have ruined a lot of people, and you let them contribute to your life now, which I think is so wonderful. You have a wonderful life right
I
now.
do. Yeah,
You
I'm
do.
very, very happy and blessed. Yeah, I think initially it was really funny all throughout because of Annie. All throughout my childhood and right up until I entered college, I thought I was going to be a teacher, because she made such an impact on my life. And she like heard me, she saw me. Um, just she's really like I just like she's an incredible woman. She just retired. I went to her retirement party. Absolutely incredible. And she will always have a special place in my heart because like I don't know what I would have done without this woman in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I always thought I was going to be a teacher. I thought I was going to go into like a language arts or literature. And then when I was at I got to do like this leadership program. So I was there a week early. And when I was there, I was like, I really want to try to make an impact on people who have lived through similar things as me. And so I just changed my major to human services. And that's I've kind of gone up the chain of my career through that. So I started in the nonprofit world. Also, interestingly enough, I thought I wanted to work with children. But it was an internship through my college. I worked at a homeless shelter, and it was really unprecedented at that time. They had a very large population of youth. And so we had nighttime programming at that shelter. And so there was a place for the adults to go to and a place for the young kids to go to, but our youth didn't have anything to do. So you're welcome, youth. I know you were thrilled about this, but I created a program for them. And I really I loved it. I loved being able to like connect with them and talk to them and like whether they were angry or not, like just hear from them, hear their voices, hear what they wanted. And it was really great, especially like the young people who might have been a little bit more difficult because they had their reasons.
Yeah.
So really being able to connect with them was so impactful. And so I started there, and then I went to another nonprofit. I worked at a United Way in my community, again with youth, and we did a lot of different things there. So I got into like the housing world, like independent living, supporting young people who may have been homeless or run away. And still absolutely loved it. And then I moved to the county level. And did a couple years at this program called Chafee. It's an independent living program for young people experiencing foster care. And I love the program myself. I had gone through it. And so to be able to then be a Chafee worker was absolutely incredible. And I think brings a unique perspective. Like I wasn't going around telling young people, everybody, right? Like there's a time and a place for that. So there's a couple young people who knew, but most of the young people I worked with didn't. But it brings a unique perspective to the young people you're working with when you do have that lived experience. And then I was a social worker or case worker for a couple years working with families and all age kids. So it was anybody who had like an ongoing case that just needed additional supports and child welfare involvement. And I love that. And now I am at a state level position again, supporting young people and youth, raising their voices, making sure they're heard, helping make changes, improving the systems. Because like in the perfect world, child welfare wouldn't exist. And unfortunately, we're not in that world yet. So we can always make improvements. And we know just systematically that it's trauma. Anytime a family or a young person is involved in our system, it brings trauma, regardless of the system meant to be there for good things.
It's a traumatic event.
It is.
Getting caught up in it is traumatic.
Yeah. So I like to do the work to try to narrow that gap and improve it as much as I can.
Ugh, you are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
But I think that I tell you all the time. Before we move on to sip, savor, spill, the last question I do want to ask kind of to wrap this conversation up is, what do you, in your job now, working in the field, but also as someone who had the experience that you did as a kid, what do you wish more people knew about either the abuse/neglect or the system? What do you wish more people had understood about you back then? Maybe, I don't know, answer it however you want.
I think it's really important about how you ask questions to young people, regardless of the age.
Okay.
Because like if somebody were to ask me like, do you have a good relationship with your mom? I'd be like, yes.
Oh.
Like, because I wanted a good relationship with my mom. I didn't want her to be angry with me. I didn't think about these things as problematic. Like, and that's something like I remember. Do we have time for a short story?
Yeah.
Like, I remember one of the times, and this was before I knew you, that child welfare came and interviewed me. And so this is what I like to call morbid memo listeners. So might be a little bit uncomfortable, might be a little bit triggering, but just remember, I'm okay. We're okay.
Everything's okay. Everything ended up okay.
Ended up okay. But for a short time, I didn't have my own room. So I slept in my mom's closet underneath her clothes. And a referral must have been called in, because what I vividly remember is her coming in and being like, Maitri, like, you get your own room now. And it was like fully furnished and I had all of these things. And then she had like a long talk with me about like how we loved each other and how things were going to get better and all of these things. And I was like, yeah, awesome, great. Concur. I'm on that same path because I want to be loved. And then I remember talking to this caseworker and being like, no, everything's great. And they're like, well, like, do you have a bed? I'm like, yes, here is my bed. Like, I didn't think to be like, yesterday I was sleeping in the closet under my mom's clothes, and today I have this bedroom to show you. But it's, again, how that question was posed to me.
Totally.
So, yeah, just being really intentional. And it's okay. Like, if you, because I think some people are afraid, like, they're like, oh, I need to call in this referral. But they're afraid to be like leading the young person. But it's okay if you do ask questions like, oh, like you said that like your mom hit you. Like, what did you mean by that? Or what did that look like? Because when you call in the referral, you can give that information.
Yes.
So don't be too scared to get further information too.
Don't be too scared, which I think, at the time, I definitely think that even more than now in 2025, this was in 2001, 2002. And the norm was even more so than it is now, that like, oh, if that's happening with someone else's kid, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
And this was a community for sure where it was, you wouldn't talk about it. I mean, where we grew up, it's funny because you did live in a privileged community, but you did not live a privileged life inside that home. And I was living outside. I did not live ever in Willow Springs or Willowbrook. We lived in Morrison. And then when my mom left my dad in 5th grade, Jennifer and I shared a room. We had a 2-bedroom apartment with my mom in Golden, and she drove us to Red Rocks every day. Okay. So I don't feel
so
like...
your perception was like, you're in this big house. Like, what do you have to complain about?
Yeah, to me, everyone there was so privileged, and it was just like hoity-toity. All the parents seem old compared to my mom. My mom had me at 23. We had a classmate whose dad was 70. Like, it was just a whole other world. But this was a world where you wouldn't talk about that kind of stuff. And that bleeds through to the kids. where the kids become the same way, where they're like, well, this is what's really happening, but we don't.
I also think, like, I remember there would be parents that would confront my parents instead of calling the hotline. So, like, I remember there was one afternoon I got in so much trouble. I didn't even remember telling this person about some of the abuse I was experiencing until I got in trouble for it. And then they were like, okay, well, I think they like put me in a corner and they're like, you can't eat until you tell us like who you told this to.
Oh
and
my
I had
God.
no idea how to answer it. So then I just kept digging myself a hole because I was like, I don't know, do I just like, I don't want to be stuck here forever. So then I just started naming names, which was getting me in more trouble because I was lying, but they thought I was telling the truth. And then they thought that I was like telling all of these people. It was bad. So call child welfare if you have a concern. CO for Kids is our hotline. 1-800-CO for Kids.
1-800-CO for Kids.
In Colorado. That's our hotline.
Colorado.
I don't personally own it, but that's the hotline.
Yeah, that is Maitri's hotline for the children. Just kidding. It's not. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I just think that your story is not one of my favorite stories. I definitely don't want to phrase it that way, but the outcome is one of my favorite outcomes because the person that you are now, that you present, that is so kind and genuinely can find joy anywhere, in any shadow you are able to locate joy, is such a unique thing to you, and you've always had it since we were children.
Thank you.
To my knowledge, you've never lost it, and if you haven't by now, I don't think you ever will.
I hope not.
And you're one of the only people I know like that.
Uh-huh.
So you're so special.
I love that. I do think like I have had therapy, so that's helped me process a lot of things. And then
shout out therapy.
Right. And then I know this is like really strange, but like sometimes people are like, oh, like if you could change anything about your life, what would you change? And even though I experienced some really terrible things, I wouldn't change it because I experienced those, like that's what taught me like how to be an empathetic person. That's what taught me like connections are so important and relationships are important and like people matter. And like that's what's brought me to like who I am today. So just kind of like holding that and being able to utilize this bad for good in life.
Well, a lot of people can talk the talk and not walk the walk.
You do it though too.
I try for sure. You're definitely way more graceful about it.
Thank you.
You're very, very graceful about it. Can we play Sleep Saver Spill?
Yes!
Maitri is an avid listener of the podcast, so she knows what the deal is. We got the 3 jars. It's up to you how we play. You want to pick? You want me to pick? What order do you want to do? You answer first. I answer first. So you tell me.
I know your favorite order is to do Sip, Savor, Spill, so we'll do that.
Okay.
And I'm happy with that. And I don't care who picks and who asks. So you pick that.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go back and forth.
Okay. So you want me to pick it and read it?
Yes.
Okay. But that means you're going to answer first,
yes.
right? Okay. Whoops. All right. So we're going to start with a sip question. And the sip question I have for you, Maitri, is who was your first childhood crush?
Oh.
You know what? I actually don't know this
funny.
About you, and I would like to know. Who was your first childhood crush?
I'm trying to think. That is a great question. I didn't...
Because you didn't have a crush on Walker, Texas Ranger, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't really know crushes were a thing. This is so funny. Like, I remember being in that first placement and, like, they thought that I was a lesbian because I never talked about it. But I think a lot of that had to do with my experiences like, relationships are very off-putting to me. So I can't remember, like, as a child who it was, but the person that's coming to my mind as, like, my first celebrity crush is Dule Hill.
Oh, that's a good answer.
He's so cute. He's still so cute.
Did you watch West Wing?
No.
What do you know him from?
I know him from a lot of things, but the first thing I ever saw him in was Holes.
Oh.
And he plays Sam, and he's just such a sweet, sensitive character. I think the thing that I love him the most in is from Psych, because he's so hysterical, and he, like, does his singing, and he and I'm spacing the actor's name, but they have just beautiful chemistry and they're amazing. It's so funny.
Oh my God. That's a great answer. Mine is so basic. It is Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh, yes.
Do you know Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement?
Mm-hmm.
And
didn't
I was
he
like
voice
7.
Simba?
He did voice Simba, the young Simba.
Yes.
And when I was a kid, I remember telling
Well,
my
he had the
babysitter.
hair.
Yeah, he was cute. He was also in like different movies like Tom and Huck. And
Mm-hmm.
just like, I remember telling my babysitter, if I want to play house with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and she was like, that's a boy. And I was like, oh, okay. Well.
You're like, so.
I know.
Thanks for pointing out the obvious.
Dule Hill is a cute answer, though. I could see he's crush worthy.
Yeah.
He's very charming.
He is.
All right. Good job.
Savor time?
So level 1 complete.
Nailed it.
You're going to pick the savor question and ask it. Okay.
All right, Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's a decision that changed the course of your life?
A decision that changed the course of my life would probably be... Damn, that's a hard one. Well, you know what? At first I was going to say coming out, but I feel like to me coming out was always inevitable. Like there was no way I wasn't going to do it. So I don't feel like I made a decision to come out so much as I just like accepted my fate. So like when I think of a big decision that I've made that's been like really notable in my life, I do have to say, and you know what a big storyline this has been for me for the last few years, is stopping drinking.
Yeah.
Because and the funny thing is, I guess you didn't really know me too long before I quit drinking, because I quit drinking in April of 2023. But I had become very dependent on alcohol, not physically. So I didn't have like a physical addiction. I didn't go through withdrawal. But when I quit drinking, it became very apparent to me, kind of in the ways when you delete social media from your phone and then you realize how much you reach for your phone. I don't know if you've ever done that. It happens to me. I'm on it way too much. I reach for my phone and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have Instagram installed right now, but I'm just like so used to it. That's how I was with drinking, where I got so much liquid courage, or it was a social lubricant, where it made it easier for me to do the Cameron show. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how to do that sober. And it took quite a while, actually. And it was hard, but I'm so happy because I'm so much more comfortable as myself now, that in any situation, and by now I've done it sober.
Yeah.
And I know I don't need something to get me through it.
That's awesome.
So I would say that. NBD. No big deal.
No big deal. I'm just living my best life over here.
Just sober.
Love it. I think for me, it's going to kind of go back into some of my child welfare experience. When I was at that first placement, I was still like really desperate to like make things work with my family. Mm-hmm. And so I had mentioned that I did get arrested. My child welfare case opened, and the judge, like once the judge found out, because initially they presented it and was like, if you admit that you did this, you just have to do community service. And I was like, I love community service. Okay.
Oh my God, that would be your reaction.
And then somebody like talked to me and was like, do you know what this means? Do you know the impact this could have on your life down the road? And so then I went back to court and was like, actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to plead guilty. And so the judge was really irritated, and then thankfully asked me some questions. And so the story came out of like how they got the confession letter. And so he dropped the charges and was like, if your family wants to refile, they can, but I'm not touching this. And so again, understandably from my mom's perspective, she was very upset. And she came to my placement with, I guess, a printout of all of the court like the transcripts. And she was like, if you want to come home, you need to retract your statements.
Oh my God.
And you need to do that in court, and you need to be willing to do this. And so I remember sitting in this, like you said, this tiny room arguing with her. And then I had two moments where, one, I was like, okay, well, let me see what you want me to retract.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached for this stack of papers and she wouldn't let me read them. She was like, no, like I highlighted everything, but like you just need to redact it because you know what you were lying about. And that didn't sit well with me. And I was so frustrated. And so I just stopped and I looked at her and I was like, do you even want me?
You asked her that at age 13?
Yes. I was 13 and a half.
Oh my God.
But yes, I did. I was like, do you even want me? Do you want me back? And she looked at me and said no. And my response, I kept it together while I was in front of her. But I remember looking at her and being like, then I don't even know what we're doing. And I stood up and I left.
Oh my God.
And it was after that visit that she relinquished her rights of me. But even though it was like so hard, it was the moment that I was like, I have to stop trying to be this person that I am never going to be for this other person. Nothing that I do will make this person happy. And so I have to just stop because I'm hurting myself doing it.
And just like that.
Yeah.
I almost called you Maitri Day.
That was my maiden name.
That used to be her name before she was married to lovely Jason. Yes. Shout out. But
shout out. Love you.
Maitri Day, Maitri Jensen, badass. Sweet, but a badass.
It's funny
that
you
is amazing.
say that because it's like when I called you and I was like, did your last name used to be Canton?
Oh yeah, we both used to have different last names. Now that you say that, yes.
Because I was like voice texting to call you, and Canton came out, and I'm like, but that's not his name.
It was at the time,
but it was. Yeah.
Yes, I am on my third, and married 0 times. I mean, truly, we both did have roller coasters.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now you've savored. It's time for you to spill.
Ready.
And it goes back to me. Oh, gosh. Sorry to everyone at home if you hear that knocking. Okay, here's the spill question. It's in my hand.
Ready.
And I'm gonna ask you. Okay. What is something you're afraid people wouldn't love you for?
Oh.
Damn.
Dang.
That is a deep question. And by the way, I know that my cousin Zach wrote this because it's in blue ink. So.
Well, this one is too.
He wrote that one too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Way to go, cousin Zach.
Shout out to Zach. Actually, our first one also, he wrote all 3.
Nice. I want to look at it.
Look at it. Ponder it.
I think it's hard because I think we kind of talked about this throughout the show is I've really struggled with my life experiences and being afraid if people knew the truth or things that happened to me that they would judge me for them. And I think I've really worked through that. But I also think it is still an inherent fear that happens that I have to consciously remind myself when it comes up. It even happens with, bless my husband, he's the best. It will even happen with situations with my husband. One that's coming to my mind is I love candles. And so I had lit a candle in our dining room and we had this fabric tablecloth. And I left it burning and it ended up melting through the candle holder and onto the table. And so he told me about it and I was like, I can fix this. Because in that moment, it brought me back to my childhood of me
God.
Not doing. And he didn't know until this is so crazy, but I took a dinner knife and I was scrubbing at the tablecloth trying to get this wax out. It wasn't gonna come out, and I started crying and I was
no.
We can't have nice things because I do these. And he was like, babe, and he again, so patient, so kind, so loving. I remember he just crouched down because I by that point I was on the floor with the tablecloth and the knife and crying. And he just crouched down next to me and held me and he's like, it's okay. You're human, you make mistakes. It's fine. This is just an opportunity for us to make a memory together, to go shopping and get a new one. It's okay.
Oh my God, we love Jason.
Yes, we do. And so I think that's it, is there are times where I interact with people I really care about about. And when I feel like I've messed up, it brings me back to like that childhood feeling of like, oh my God, they're going to hate me.
Yeah. And you're not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, like reminding myself, but no, I am, and they're good people, and I'm a good person, and we can get through this.
Yeah. We love self-regulation.
Yes.
We love it. Wow. That's a great answer. What is something I'm afraid people wouldn't love me for? I think the thing that makes me the most nervous that people won't love me for is that I am, if I'm not in control. I'm such a control freak. Anyone who knows me will tell you. And a lot of that is because when I was younger, there was so much I couldn't control that what happens now, I'm a controlling adult. And so I'm afraid that people, it's like kind of two-pronged, a double-edged sword. Because sometimes I'm like, if I'm too bossy, will anyone ever want to be with me? And then on the flip side, I get so anxious if I'm not involved in being bossy or controlling that it will give the appearance that I don't care and I'm checked out, which is codependent behavior. And shout out to therapy. So I think it's that. It's either that I'm too controlling or not controlling enough.
It's hard because it brings you back to this spot of vulnerability and being like, okay, like it's fine, we got this. And I can understand that too. Like I definitely definitely I'm like, okay, I want this, and this because I need to know what's happening because for so long I didn't. So it's something I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to.
I know. I think people should, well, first of all, like you were saying earlier, how when you listen to episodes, you play along and you answer the questions. I have had so many people tell me that. And I love that because that is literally the point. Every week, I would normally post these questions. I would be like, do you know how your best friend would answer this? If you don't, ask them.
Yeah.
You should know how your best friend would answer a lot of these. And I think if a lot of people were to ask other people this question, it would reveal something from their smallest selves. Because I think most of us as adults, the things that we're afraid we're not going to be loved for are so deep rooted. It's the same fear that we would have had at age 5.
But I also love voicing it because it kind of loses its power.
Totally.
Because then you'd be like, no.
Even acknowledging it is like one step, because I think a lot of people don't ever think about that because who wants to think about it?
Yeah.
That was a good one. You sipped, savored, spilled, Maitri. I almost did it again. I want to call you Maitri Day. Wants to come out of my mouth.
That's so funny.
Maitri Jensen.
Two E's.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners and viewers with before we depart for the week?
It's kind of along the lines of what you say, but just be kind and genuine.
Be kind and genuine. Yeah. And anyone who knows Maitri has a great example of that to look up to. All right. Well, then with that, I will say, as always, live your best life. Don't be a dick. And I love you. Bye.